Hey everyone, I'm your host Natalie Bode. On the show today is a true legend of the game and one of the greatest running backs in NFL history. After dominating Oklahoma and being selected 7th overall in the 2007 NFL Draft, he went on to rush for over 14,000 yards, earn 7 Pro Bowl selections, and win NFL MVP in 2012. Please welcome the one and only Adrian Peterson to the show. I looked up where you grew up.
Okay.
Palestine, Texas.
Palestine, yep.
I'm from Texas. I grew up in Texas. I have no idea where that is. I have no clue. I'm from a town between Houston and Austin. It's called Brenham.
Okay.
Where is Palestine?
Yep, I know where Brenham is. So Palestine is like southeast of Dallas.
Okay.
You heard of Tyler, Texas?
Oh yeah,
So
you're near there?
My hometown is like 45 minutes from Tyler.
Wow.
So it's like Tyler, Palestine, White House, Athens, Crockett, Texas.
That's like
Trinity,
real deep.
Elkhart, Cayuga.
That's
Yeah.
Texas, like farm town Texas,
Yeah,
right?
Piney Woods.
Oh, I know Piney Woods.
Yep.
How do you know of Brenham?
I don't know Brenham.
Yeah, just proximity.
Yeah. I played with a couple people from Brenham.
Really?
In Oklahoma. But isn't that where they do? Maybe I'm wrong. The ice cream.
Bluebell ice cream.
Bluebell
You
ice
know,
cream.
you really know. He knows.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite.
Okay, I'm impressed. So it must not be too far from where I'm at, but it's probably between. It's not near Dallas, but like right between two major cities, right?
I would say between Dallas and Houston.
Okay, that's kind of where I was picturing you when you were describing it.
Yeah.
So what was life like growing up there?
It was good. It was cool, you know, like living in the country, growing up in the country is just a totally different vibe, you know. You get that country living, you know, everyone knows everyone. You know, then the surrounding towns as well. Mm-hmm. It's like 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes away, you know, and you just got a lot of friends from that area as well. But where I grew up in Palestine, I lived out in the country, and everyone that really lived around me, they were family. Mm-hmm. You know, my grandmother's like a sister and her brother, and you know, my great aunts and stuff. So
Everybody stays
around each other, you know. So I did a lot of cow tipping, cows and stuff that just roamed around, and you know, I had a lot of adventures, you know, going out into the woods and, you know, hunting and things like that. It was different, you know, because when you're out there, you find so much to get into, you know. I remember I got injured my freshman year, and we used to have these water jugs. You remember the water jug you put over and got red and the blue? Mm-hmm. I was trying to find a way to create a sled, right? So I used to take those water jugs, fill them up with dirt, and I tied like a rope around it, and I used to drag those, like running just for.
So you were basically creating your own like training out there in the country.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I also read that both of your parents, incredible athletes in their own right. Mm-hmm. Who do you think really, if you had to say like one parent though that really gave you that athletic ability? Because it was, your dad played football and your mom was a sprinter, is that correct?
Yeah, my dad played football and basketball.
Football and basketball.
Yeah, he was a Mickey D's All-American.
Wow.
And basketball, my mom was an All-American in track.
That's wild.
Yeah. But
who do you give the edge to? Who was the more athletic? If you had to say in their prime, who had it?
My mother, for sure. Yeah. And then when you look at my mom's side of the family, it's nothing but athletes. I had an uncle. So my mom was an athlete. She ran at the University of Houston.
Go Cougs.
She was a sprinter. Mm-hmm. So she was there with like Carl Lewis when his sister was there and all that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so I had an uncle in high school who played running back. And I broke all his records.
Wow.
Once I got into high school. But even outside of high school, he was a 7'1" high jump.
Oh my gosh.
Jumper. And then I had another uncle who went to the University of Texas, who played tight end, who went to Palestine High School, and played for like Washington for like 2 years. My uncle that I mentioned, his name was Ivory Brown, who I broke all his records. He went and played for Arizona for a couple of years. He went to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and ended up going to the Senior Bowl, the All-Star Bowl. Like I remember the picture that's still at my grandmother's house of him, Brett Favre, and like all these guys that were invited to that senior game that year.
So that wasn't really a crazy idea for you. You figured like, I have this in my blood. I'm going to be a great athlete. Like, did you have that expectation and pressure for yourself?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if I will say it was pressure, you know. For me, it was more so of, realizing that I had, a guy, given ability, and I was talented, and it was just okay. What are you gonna do with it? So at a young age, I realized that once I started playing organized football, and it was like the same thing that I was doing, outside, playing against the kids and everything, and it just kind of kept going from that going forward. But I always realized that I was above the other kids, and I was faster than all the kids, stronger, and just had that knack for playing a position. And so I always, in my mind, I always realized that, I'm gonna go play professional football.
You were already kind of a legend though in your town before you even got to high school, right?
Yeah.
From multiple sports. Did you have national attention like at that point before you even stepped into high school?
It wasn't to
Not
that
national?
level. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It wasn't to that level. Because I ran track too. Track was my second love. My first scholarship offer was because of track.
Really? What was your event?
The 100, 200, and then I did long jump as well.
Oh wow!
But I started doing the long jump in high school and just focused on the sprints and the relays. But yeah, my first scholarship offer was from college because I had made a transition where I was just like, you know what? Just because of some of the coaches that were at the school, I wasn't really dealing with them. They, to be quite frankly, they were some rednecks from Orange, Texas, and I just, they were just different. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna focus on track, and I'm just gonna go that direction. And then my dad kind of shifted that ideal for me. When we had a conversation, he was like, man, you gotta get your, pretty much get back out there.
You need to play football.
Yeah. And so I ended up getting back into it.
So when it comes time to choose which college you're attending,
Yeah.
you didn't want to go to a Texas school?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yeah. So when I came out, I was the number one recruit in the country. So I could have went anywhere I wanted to go. And my first scholarship offer was from Texas A&M, and then Oklahoma, and then University of Texas. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I felt like Texas should have been the first offer. I was a Longhorn all the way. Like I said, my uncle went to UT, so I used to go to a lot of those games and watch those guys play. And the years that he was there, it was like Ricky Williams was there, Roy Williams, like Major Applewhite, Chris Sims, all those guys, Priest Holmes, like they had some dogs. They had some guys that played in the league for a long time. And so that rubbed me the wrong way that they didn't offer me first. Being the number one player in the country for 2 years, how you don't offer me immediately? So that rubbed me the wrong way. And then the one thing, so at the time, A&M, Coach Slocum was there, R.C. Slocum, shout out. Texas, they weren't there. I wanted to go to a program that was going to compete for a national championship, and
I saw it. Johnny Manziel changed that program forever. Yeah. After that, I felt like that's when they became a national powerhouse and had the money and the attention. Before that, you're right, they weren't in the SEC yet. It wasn't quite to that level.
Exactly. So that kind of pushed me away from them. And then, like TCU really wasn't there. Texas Tech, they really want those top programs like that. So really, it was like either Texas or you're going somewhere else.
So when you got to Oklahoma, was your impact basically from the moment you stepped on campus? You didn't really, the college game wasn't too fast for you?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Was there any change? Because I saw the numbers you put up, and then you finished second in Heisman voting as a freshman.
Yeah.
When that happened, were you kind of like, they're overlooking me again? Like I have another chip on my shoulder again, like from the recruiting standpoint to now, you felt like you got gypped maybe in that process?
Yeah, I definitely got gypped. I did.
You would have been the first freshman. You would have beat Johnny.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too. It's just like at that time, I would never forget, and it pissed me off. Being down there for the Heisman ceremony, I found out the day before that I wasn't winning.
How?
So one of the guys came up to me, one of the alumni, and was just like, hey, heck of a season this year. I'm just going to be real with you. The committee, they're not ready to give the trophy to a freshman.
Wow. He told you that the day before?
He told me straight up. He was like, they're not ready. They haven't got to that point where they're ready to give it to a freshman.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, dang, that's crazy.
Did you want to leave? I would have wanted to leave.
No, it was still a good experience,
Yeah.
but it sucked, Especially when you see like Johnny Manziel, he won it, and it's just like, in my mind, it's like, I should have been the first freshman to ever win it.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
And it just, it blew my mind. But even with that said, it made me realize like the politics of things, right? Because to put things in perspective for you, right? So I was up, got second, most votes ever by a freshman, right? Second place. But then that year also, I didn't win the Doak Walker Award, which goes to the best running back in college football. I'm just like, okay, how am I one of two running backs that's up for the Heisman Trophy? I finished second, and neither me or the other running back that was up for the Heisman wins the Doak Walker Award?
Makes no sense.
Oh, it don't make sense to me. So I was just like, you know what, that's politics, So it is what it is. After that, I was just like, that was just confirmation, because something like that happened earlier in my Little League career that made me kind of realize that, I wasn't thinking on that level, but it's something I thought back on. But that made me realize, you know what, man, don't let, awards and all that define who you are. You just go out there and do what you do.
Your college career was an incredible one, but your body also started breaking down a little bit. You had to deal with some injuries. What was your mindset during that time?
It was just like, the injuries that I had was just like unfortunate type injuries, so it wasn't like, oh, your hamstring pull or anything like that. It was just like things you couldn't really avoid. It happened, right? So my first big injury, was my sophomore year. I had a grade 3 high ankle sprain, which that's pretty much like breaking your ankle.
Right.
So that was really brutal for me. It took me a long time to recover from that. And then my junior year, which I would say that was going to be my year to come back and win the Heisman Trophy, I ended up diving in the end zone. Someone clipped my foot and shifted my body, and I landed on my shoulder, and it broke my collarbone.
And that's the injury. Is it true that you ran a 4.4 at the combine with that broken collarbone? And you just... Did you just decide, like, injuries aren't going to exist in my mind? I mean, how do you do that? Man,
it was like my don't matter, And the crazy thing is, I came back and played in the Fiesta Bowl, because that injury happened like week 6 of the season, and I came back and played in the Fiesta Bowl in Arizona. And what I didn't realize during the time, I remember the play, because I remember getting up like, dang, my shoulder feels a little awkward, but I didn't think too much of it, right? Just continue to play. But come to find out, I had re-broke it. So the compound break, thought it was healed, and then I ended up re-breaking it in that game, and didn't realize until I was like in Arizona, down at API training and all that, So,
wow.
Yeah, but it was just like, mine don't matter, go out there and just get it in, do what you can do, and enjoy the process.
Do you have a favorite moment of your college career?
A favorite moment? I would say probably that freshman year. Just going through that process and, being able to accomplish the things that I was able to accomplish early on, 7 straight games of over 100 yards and, helping my team, get to the Big 12 championship game and a national championship game, and then going down to Miami, Florida, and just preparing for that opportunity to play for a national championship. That's the moment that I kind of remember the most, because it was just like, wow, it was just so real, growing up in Palestine and seeing my dreams kind of unfold in front of me.
So your draft day, take me through what it was like, because usually I ask guys that question, like, oh my gosh, that was the most stressful day. But for you, was it like that? Did you kind of know where you might go? How did you feel that day?
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
I was going to say, you probably were.
Yeah, I was just like, you know what? I'm going top 10.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's like how I looked at it,
It's different when you're picked that caliber. You're like, I'm good.
Exactly. So in my mind, though, it was just like, all right, Arizona can be a spot, Detroit can be a spot, Cleveland could be a spot, Minnesota, and then Houston. And they were all picking in the top 10. So I was like, okay, if I don't go, if Detroit ended up picking Calvin Johnson, so I was like, okay, cool, that makes sense. Calvin Johnson was probably one of the most talented athletes to come through the draft, right? So that made sense. They went the receiver route. Arizona, I really didn't understand their pick. And ironically, I've talked to the owners, and the GM at the time, and because I ended up playing for Arizona for like half a season, it was like, man, that's the worst decision we made. You know, like if we could do it, we wish we could have did it over, and we would have selected you.
Remind me who they picked?
They ended up getting like Levi Brown.
Okay.
It was like an offensive tackle.
Okay.
And then Cleveland, I thought maybe I could go down to Cleveland because I think they had the 4th pick, and they ended up picking Joe Thomas, which, you know, he was a Hall of Famer. So, you know, it worked out for them as far as, you know, fulfilling that need. And then when Minnesota came up, I was like, okay, I think Minnesota gonna end up picking me. I honestly wanted to, during that time, I wanted to slip to number 10 because I would have been able to go back home and play in Texas.
I was gonna say Houston would have been pretty cool, but
yeah, that would have been dope. But they ended up picking. Well, it was after I got selected. I'm sure if I was still on the board, they probably would have got me. But they ended up going with Amobi Okoye. Yeah, the youngest NFL player to ever get drafted.
How old was he?
He was 17.
Wow, that's super young.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the league at 17? That's crazy. Well, you go on to have a great rookie year. You break the single game rushing record, right? 296 yards or something like that.
Yep.
What do you remember from that day?
I just remember, you know, that whole week I was wired up, you know, because, man, I'm about to go against top 5 defense, and even more so important than that, LaDainian Tomlinson is on the other side of the ball, you know, and I grew up watching him. He was one of my guys, you know, and he was the best running back in the league at that time. So for me, it was just like, man, I gotta go out there. I got the ball. I'm going to LT. You know, like I done stole a lot of his moves, and he inspired me. I gotta go out there and show out, you know, to let them know, like, hey, you know, this is what you helped create. You know what I'm saying? But the one thing I remember the most from that game is like the first half, and when I look back on the first half, there was like 3 or 4 plays where they should have been like big chunks that I should have been able to gain, but it was like a couple of them, like 2 of them, I was just impatient and I didn't let the play develop, and I missed big opportunities, right? And I think like the other 2.
You had almost 300 yards though, and you just see the play. You're like, I could add more here and here and here.
Yeah, so this is why I say that, because during that first half, when I go back to the sideline, I'm talking to Hutch and Burke and those guys.
Yeah.
And I'm just, hey, you know, you guys, that's on me. You know, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm gonna make up for it. I'm gonna make up for it because we missed opportunities. But a lot of people don't know that first half only had like 40 some yards rushing.
Wow.
So the second half, I had like 200.
That's when you went off.
250 some yards. And a lot of people don't realize. They think, okay, you had 296 yards in the game, and they think like throughout the game, but they don't realize it was the second half where I had 250 plus yards.
Wow. So during that second half, do you have any idea? You're like, I might have a record here. Do you know at all?
No, I don't know at all.
Really?
It was just kind of like just being in the flow of things, you know. So it was like, it's not, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know. And we were gashing them, you know. So it was that type of feel in the second half where we were just like, bam, 15 here, bam, 20 here, bam, 60, you know. It was that type of feel. So I never knew, like, okay, you're approaching 300 yards. If I would know that, I would be like, hey, bro, let me get
some more.
you know, let me get that 300 mark.
Yeah.
It was dope, but 296 is not far off.
Who told you after? Did you find out immediately?
Yeah. I think Tom West, you know, he's a guy. He still works for the Vikings to this day. He might have came up to me and was like, hey, you just set a single game rushing record, like 296 yards. And I was like, dang, 296? Why didn't let me get 300? Right,
only 4 off. 2012, you go on to win the MVP. You had an ACL tear, right? That previous season. What do you remember from that 2012 season?
The number one thing I remember is walking out of the tunnel in the first game, because at that moment, it was like everything that I envisioned when the injury happened, you know, like here I am now, you know, because, you know, a lot of people counted me out. He's not going to be the same, this, that, another. It had so much to say. And, you know, for me, it was like, I'm going to come back, I'm going to be better than I was before. And a lot of people looked at me and, you know, doubted me and this, that, another. But, you know, that is kind of what it was, you know. But for me, my mentality, like, I had it set that, hey, you know what, I'm going to come out, and I'm gonna literally be better than I was before. So like coming out week 1 and being the last one announced and just hearing the crowd just go crazy, because they've heard the things I've said, and it's like it's that moment where here I am. I'm coming out the tunnel and I'm about to play. No knee brace, no anything. Like I'm back.
Wow.
That was probably the best moment.
So you already had that mindset going in. You were ready.
Yeah.
So for you, when I think about your career, I mean, it was an incredible one, but I'm sure that you might feel like one part of your game was a little bit underrated or maybe doesn't get talked about enough. Do you have a part of your game you think people overlook a little bit or don't give you your flowers for?
Yeah, I would say the receiving part of it, because like even in college and in high school as well, I really wasn't like, I was a receiving running back, but they never threw the ball. It's like, you right here, we're going to hand this ball up to you. Right. Trying to throw it to you, So I wasn't I never was in an offense in high school or in college where they, utilized the running back by throwing the ball to them. I would get like screens and different things like that or whatnot, but it was never a situation where it was like a Reggie Bush where they would line me up in the slot or put me out wide and run routes. So I feel like that part of my game was kind of overlooked a lot. But then when you go to 2009, when Brett Favre came there, we actually, let me not say that because one of my fellow quarterbacks might be watching too. We have some good quarterbacks throughout the years, don't get me wrong. But when Favre came, you can really look at the numbers and see, like I think the first year I had like 500 yards receiving. Then even that second year, even though it was a down year for us as a team, I had like close to 400 yards, and those are still like my top 2 receiving stats throughout my career. So it was more so like get a quarterback that can facilitate the ball to me, that'll find the check down, and get the ball in my hands that way as well. So that 2009 season is always a season I bring up when people are like, well, you couldn't catch the ball, or you want to receive and running back. And I'm like, check the years when Favre was there. And he actually
check the tape,
check the ball down to the running back. So that's probably the only part of my game.
Did you have one moment in your NFL career that was the most surreal for you?
So I had like an out-of-body experience in the NFC Championship game in 2009.
Really?
Yeah, where I fumbled the ball, and the ball flew right out in front of me like 10 yards, right? And I remember seeing 2 Saints players running towards the ball, and it was like the Angels, like you've seen the Angels, everyone's seen the Angels in the outfield, where they jump up and the Angel pull up and lift them up, and you're like, wow, what's that? It was definitely that type of experience because I was down on my knees and I'm looking at the ball. I see 2 Saints players like 5 yards from the ball, and I shot to that ball. I don't know how. It was, like I said, it was out of body experience. Probably my best play of my career.
That's wild.
To be able to recover that ball, it was like, wow, like how the hell did I just do that? It was literally like an Adrian outfield type play.
I gotta watch that one back because I know I have seen it, but I've got to watch that one back.
Yeah, when you see it, you can be like, okay, I definitely understand what you're talking about.
So you were on 6 teams after your time with the Vikings, right? 6 different ones?
Yeah, let me see. Yep.
So I know it's hard to probably pick, but is there one of those teams you were with after the Vikings that was the most special to you or stood out for any reason?
I would probably say Washington and my little short stint in Arizona. New Orleans was dope too because I played with Drew Brees, Jordan, and Cam. I played with some guys down there that were really, really cool. Just the culture of New Orleans as well was really, amazing. Good people down there in New Orleans. The ownership as well was awesome. Present, there every day. So that was a wonderful experience. And then Arizona, it was really dope because I got to play with my boy Larry, Larry Fitzgerald, who was like my big bro. So that was awesome. But then Washington, because I was there, not only because I was there for 2 years, but just the culture there, and just I got to play with my boy Trent Williams for a year before he ended up, sitting out and going to San Fran. So
you had a 1,000-yard season there too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You were 30, 33, 34?
Yeah, like 34. Yep. And then I should have had back-to-back. And then the next year I had like 930 some yards, you know.
Probably felt good because people were probably like, he's too old. Can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Just give me the opportunity. I'll make something happen, you know. So that's the reason why I would say Washington, because there's the culture there. I had a lot of family there, a lot of good relationships that I still have to this day, and then just being presented with the opportunity to go out there and play.
So, where do you rank yourself on all-time running backs? I see all these lists. I see Mount Rushmore's. What's yours? Where are you ranked, and what's your Mount Rushmore running backs?
Yeah. Honestly, I put myself there at the top 3.
Have to, right?
I just feel like the style of play, right? I think the most elusive running back of all times is, I would say, Barry Sanders. Just how he played. He was a shifty, you know what I'm saying? Barry Sanders had a different style.
Oh yeah.
But the one thing I always say is, it don't matter what it is, like how's your production, right? And his production was awesome. I put Emmitt Smith up there for sure, because people would be like, well, he had this offensive line or this, that, and other, but it's your production.
Still got to perform.
You still have to perform.
Yep.
And people forget, like, Emmitt Smith was a dog at Florida.
Oh yeah.
So got to put him up there as well. And then I'll say let's do 4 up there. And I got Walter Payton and then myself. And then no particular order, but it goes to show, like, when people look at the style that Emmitt had, they don't look at Emmitt like they look at Barry Sanders. They look at Barry Sanders like, man, this guy was just amazing, which he was. He's one of a kind. I'm yet to see anyone to play the game like he played. Even a guy like LT or, Eric Dickerson. I'm sure a lot of people would pick them over Emmitt. But when you talk about the production, Emmitt Smith got all the time rushing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like you got to pick your poison as far as like the style of play, the type of running back that you like, this, that, and other, right? And I feel like me and Walter Payton, and then Jim Brown as well, I think we kind of have like the same style. I feel like we had, like, when you think about a running back, you think about, you think about us,
right?
Like Walter Payton, me, and Jim Brown. Like, we're going to run through you. It's like that relentless mentality, That's the mentality we had. You didn't get that from Emmitt, like you didn't get that from, maybe a little more from Emmitt compared to Barry and LT and some of the guys, ED, that was more shifty and speed or whatever. We were out there like running through you, jumping over you, stiff arming you, coming, you thought we were down and we end up popping back up. We just played the game that way. So for me, when I envision, running back, that's what I envision. And so from that perspective, I feel like no one did it better than I did. And if there's any comparison, it would be Jim Brown and Walter Payton.
I love it. No, I love to hear your thoughts on it. And like I said, I got to go back and watch some of your plays. We're reminiscing. I'm thinking of like where I watched something and when. And do you ever watch any college football though?
A little bit.
Here and there?
Yeah, here and there.
Did you keep up or hear about the Heisman race and Ashton Jensen and the season he had rushing versus Travis Hunter? Did you hear about all of that?
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion on it? Do you think Ashton Jensen should have won the Heisman?
In my personal opinion, I think he should have. And it's not me being biased because I'm a running back. It's just the body of work that he put in, and I get it. A lot of people say, well, the conference they play in or this, that, and other, but Colorado really wasn't playing no heavy hitters like that. Like they had it.
I think the Mountain West gets disrespected a little bit versus if you're talking about, the Big 12. So I see your point. Yeah. I see your point to that.
But me playing against Boise State, back in the day, like I had a new respect for them when we played against them, because when we found out we were playing Boise State, like, who the hell is Boise State? You know what I'm saying? And you watch film on, you're like, damn, okay, these boys can ball. Right?
Yeah.
And then when you get on the field with them, I remember when I got on the field, I was like, God, like these.
They're good.
Like they're not only they're good, they're big. Like, they're some big guys. Their offensive line was way bigger than our offensive line, and they were athletes. They weren't just like fat guys. They were in shape. Yeah. Like I see why they're here. So a lot of people overlook that, you know, and because they don't really know about the school and all that, but they out there playing ball, you know, they're playing some good ball. So for me, it was just like, I just felt like the body of work that he put in, the things that he accomplished, you know, some of the records that he broke and some of the near records that he was close to close to breaking, you know, I felt like based on what Travis did in Colorado, it was spectacular. You know, congratulations to him too. I have nothing but love and respect for him. What he did offensively and then defensively, I didn't feel like one or the other was like superior.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Pretty even, yeah.
It was pretty even. It wasn't anything that just really jumped out there to me that made me be like, you know what? Oh yeah, like what he did offensively, that right there is the reason why he won the Heisman. Or what he did defensively, that's the reason why. You know, when you look at his body of work compared to, you know, the young buck running back, it just didn't compare to me. You know, and I feel like he definitely should have won it.
We'll end with this one. What was your most proud moment on the field in your career?
My most proud moment on the field? Oh, man.
Give me one off the field, too, if you want.
Yeah. Well, outside of, you know, that fumble recovery, ironically.
Yeah.
The most proud moment.
I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry.
You are. That's a good one. I don't know if I really have a moment that was like, you know, I was just so happy about that I can really think of. When we had a game against Chicago, my rookie season, and I think I had like 225 yards, something like that. And then I was doing kickoff return, and it was a tie ball game. You know, I was running all over, you know, Urlacher and those guys, you know, Bridge, the defense, Chicago defense, right? And I'm here playing against, you know, Chicago Bears, you know, in Chicago. Walter Payton was my favorite player, you know, favorite running back growing up as well. And I'm on kickoff return with a chance to. I'm trying to take it to the house. You know,
right.
to win the game, fourth quarter, not that much time on the clock, and I ain't no breaking. They kicked it to me, bam, catch it, boom, and I ain't no breaking. And I remember cutting back left to the left side of the field and getting north and south. And I don't know who came and ended up like scraping my foot and, you know, and tackling me on our own 30. So it was like a 70-yard return.
Wow.
Should have been a house call, really. And then it set us up for the go ahead field goal, you know, to seal the deal. So that was like a proud moment for me because I'm playing there in Soldier Field. I've always been a fan of Walter Payton, and you know, I had so much respect for Chicago and their defense, because their defense was like a top 10 defense during that time as well. So to come in and have that type of game, and then to top it off with setting us up for the game-winning field goal, that was a proud moment.
Very cool. You had so many great moments in your career. We really appreciate you coming by and sharing some of them. Thanks, AP.